Hi, this is Mehdi,
Hey, this is Fran.
and this is Total Tactics Football. Tonight, we're talking about the big game coming up in the Champions League. It's Bayern versus Barcelona.
So it's a massive tie, of course. Barca come into this beating Napoli, fresh off a fantastic Messi performance, and Bayern obviously finished their kind of demolishing of Chelsea with a 7-1 on aggregate score. When we look into the tie, I think Barcelona has opted for many different formations since the post-lockdown. We've seen what has worked the most is playing Griezmann somewhat centrally, under some sort of 4-3-1-2 or 4-3-2-1 structure where Messi and Griezmann somewhat alternate roles. And in the Napoli match, we did see Messi kind of sticking more to a right inside forward position. This was kind of aided by Semedo carrying the ball forward. And I imagine that that's something that they'll have to try again. Barca, of course, are somewhat limited by the fact they don't have sort of pacey wingers because Dembele has been injured concurrently and Fati has not kind of usurped Griezmann in the lineup. And so I think what you'll be looking at is Setien kind of sticking to his ways. I think if I had to predict it personally, I think Setien would go for Griezmann, Suarez, Messi, in that kind of three central triangle. And then the midfield is a bit more of a dilemma because I think De Jong has showed that he's fantastic. So I think you have to play De Jong. And Setien has a large preference to playing Vidal. So Vidal
Mhm.
will play in the same position that Sergio Roberto did versus Napoli. And I think you have Busquets coming back from suspension. That's going to be your midfield three. And at the back, it's going to be what we've seen all year round. Realistically, it's Alba, it's Piqué, it's Lenglet, who had a fantastic performance versus Napoli, by the way, and also rounding things out, it's going to be Semedo.
Bayern, on the other hand, have a dearth of wingers available, and they like to play with the 4-2-3-1 generally, and which sometimes turns into a 4-3-3 due to their fluid system. With the likes of Gnabry and Coleman generally filling out the wing position. We've heard Coleman might be a doubt, and we feel that Perisic will take that position. The back line is a little tricky as well, considering Boateng picked up a knock in the last game and Sully is returning from a heavy injury. But considering the threat on that right-hand side, I think it's going to be Kimmich playing with Sully and with the irreplaceable Alaba and Alfonso Davies. And middle is going to be your Thiago and Goretzka, with Muller leading the number 10 position and your forward line by the best player at the moment in the world, Lewandowski. And they like to play in a very fast and moving positions. Like, so people like Alfonso's is very high up the pitch. Alaba will shift in to a bit of a left back position. You have Goretzka dropping in. Muller loves to be free. There's no one in this position that is stuck to one, and that allows for a structure where everyone knows their roles, and that allows for Bayern to be very heavy in attack.
Absolutely. But I think, Barcelona, when it comes down to it, they always have the magic man himself. It's Messi. And
Yeah.
that's always going to be something you have. It's an intangible fact that Messi will be able to do something in a game. You can't go into a game thinking that you can shut him out. Obviously, there are notable performances, for example, with Inter Milan with Jose Mourinho, where that has happened, but you can't count that out. I think the way Bayern play with the fullbacks pushing so high offensively, there is a little bit of space there for Semedo to actually aid Messi and actually run in behind us for an overlap. The only issue I see, of course, is Alaba is very defensively astute, and obviously, we all remember Messi Boateng, but if you play Messi and you install him in a more right wing position, he's not going to be finding the same chances to kind of beat Alaba, in my opinion, who is realistically Bayern's second best player. The only alternative option I think for Barca to attack is because I think Suarez and Griezmann have been very poor with their pressures, is if they start with Fati or manage to contain the game at least to the second half, I think Fati will be able to kind of run in between the channels because Bayern still struggle to deal with kind of overlapping runs, and the pace for Barcelona and maybe with the Dembele substitution could be interesting.
That's a very, very good shout. But I do feel like what you mentioned, there is that gap with Alfonso's going forward, but the same applies back to Barcelona in the sense that if Vidal, which we presume is going to be playing in that right-hand side, tends to not keep his position, and he's also aging, the speed that Bayern Munich have can be quite devastating. And we see with link ups on the right hand side, Muller, Gnabry, and Kimmich specifically building triangles. And it's, in a weird way, you could say this is what Barcelona should be playing, like fast, fluid football under pressure. They don't give the ball away. And when they lose it, they're heavily looking to get it back. As we've seen, like they do 47.3 average final third presses compared to Barca's 33, and that's due to the legs and the youth generally and ability they have in the team. What's going to be quite tricky is the fact that I feel Muller will have a very important game, because he's going to be the one who's going to be looking at being a thorn in Busquets' shoes. He's going to be around there. He moves a lot. Busquets can't just follow him around. We know Vidal has other duties that he has to follow. Frankie's going to be on the left-hand side, let's say. It's going to be a bit of a problem because he doesn't stick in one position. You'll find him somehow. He's not the fastest. He's not the best passer, but he tends to get in these very dangerous positions. And he has the physicality and also the touch to bring in players into the game. As a second striker, one could say. Just one more thing, I do also feel like with the fact that we have Alaba as a left center back, with being a natural fullback, he has tendencies to always look for forward passers, and I think that gives Bayern this exceptional advantage where you've got another creator from the back who's going to be looking for passes in the attacking third into the opposition half, somewhere they're going to be challenging, which they're going to grab the ball and run at the defenders. And can Barca handle that? I do not feel they have the legs to press, so Bayern will have a lot of time at the back. And from there, it's all about, can Barca shut down this Bayern attack? What do you think, Fran?
So one of the interesting things that I think Barcelona could employ to kind of shut down the attack is maybe opting for some sort of four-man midfield. It comes down to the fact that Setien has to try something tactically different, because I think, on paper, when you play the same formation out and you play the game with Bayern multiple times, you see themselves losing. But there is an opportunity, for example, with De Jong back in the lineup. He's a very defensively astute player who also is extremely creative. And I think, they do have the kind of midfield talent to swarm Bayern, because Kimmich is now installed in the right back position. So
Yeah.
for me, that might be an interesting option of kind of shutting down Bayern as much as possible. Yes, you leave Bayern open to the wings, but I think that's something you just have to kind of hope and pray, Lewandowski isn't able to make the most out of his chances, because that's something we saw as a weakness with Barcelona, right? When Napoli were sort of having the possession in the second half, they were able to fly in plenty of crosses. And Lewandowski is no Milik. He's going to absolutely take every chance possible. So I think there's a massive trade-off for Barcelona, but at this stage in time, they're a much weaker side. They're a much more aged and veteran side. So I think they have to kind of dominate the midfield the same way that, for example, Real Madrid has, when they play the kind of Christmas tree formation. And you have to kind of play off the fact that hopefully, let's say someone like De Jong can create for Messi.
I agree with you, and that's also sort of like the problem of having such great players, but in the twilights of their career, Suarez is there. He's sort of a favorite for Setien. Guys prefers him. We don't see him being dropped. Messi is just not possible to drop him. But these players don't have the legs to provide you that press or to provide you that sort of defense in the forward lines. So that also adds a lot of pressures on the defenders. I don't think that the Barcelona defenders are able to soak up that much pressure. We can see with Vidal, he has tendencies to make some aggressive challenges. Sometimes he's not like he's a hothead, and I've seen Carrasco doing that to Barcelona in the game in La Liga. And I feel this would be a very interesting game to see if these players can, with their experience, they can keep their cool. And like you mentioned, hopefully, Lewandowski doesn't get enough chances, and that will be like an area they have to keep 100% focus.
That's the interesting thing, right? I think Barcelona do have some young players too. They have Fati, they have Puig as well. And these are players that have shown that they can actually play game in, game out for Barcelona. And they're the bright spots of the team amongst a largely veteran squad, with the exception of De Jong as well. And I think the problem is Setien has seemed to be quite hesitant to playing these players. And that's for me the major fear coming into this tie. And that kind of clouds my doubt over, whether they're able to make an impact. Because when you play, Fati and Puig late, maybe they're just chasing a game. And at that point, I think when you let the kind of predicted Barcelona squad go up against that Bayern one, they'll be overrun too early.
And I do feel like Bayern does have like a bit more quality on depth with experience. If Perisic, let's say, starts, you will have a traveling Coman and Coutinho, who are quality players in their own regards, with the likes of experience from Tolisso, possibly Boateng off the bench. So there's a lot of depth and quality, and it's at the right age for Bayern. And I feel like they've built this team with maybe one or two additions right. They can really become a dominant force for another few years. So for me, I personally think it's going to be a 3-0 or a 3-1 win for Bayern Munich. I just think they have a bit too much, uh, unfortunately for Barcelona. But you never know with Messi magic.
No, I agree. Actually, I think we'll see a 4-2 because Lewandowski will get the same chances. I think Barcelona will have to give the crosses away, and ultimately, Lewandowski is the perfect target man, and you still have the chances for the kind of wide players for Bayern to create. Ultimately, Barcelona just don't pressure enough. I think Suarez and Griezmann really haven't impressed me lately, and it seems like the way Setien manages his team, he's too afraid to make radical changes, and as a result, I see Barca losing.